Hi, good evening. Good evening, friends who are following me from Growth Mindset page, Facebook page. Some are watching from the YouTube channel, Growth Mindset page. Kindly share this content. Today, we're going to talk about very important topic, how to mind your health. Very important topic. In fact, we have discussed this topic some time ago a couple of weeks ago, and of course I want to spend more time in this. And a lot of people actually now currently experiencing stress, anxiety and depression and whatnot. So we have some two important gentlemen uh, today. They were excited to share and kindly share this content with others. If you happen to watch this, kindly share this so that more people will benefit. It's only when you share this content others will benefit, so kindly share this. Please uh, share in also YouTube and also Facebook channel. Okay, so let me introduce these two gentlemen. Okay, today our topic, we're going to focus on mind health. When we say mental health, people kind of like a stigma, so we change that thing. How to take care of our mind? How important is mind? We have a qualified psychiatrist today who is an associate professor in psychiatry at Monash University, Malaysia. He also holds the position of a head of school, clinical school, Johor at Monash. He's a visiting consultant psychiatrist to Columbia Asia Hospital, Nusa Jaya in Johor. He's also a national trainer for the drug substitution therapy, (NDST). On a social front, he's also quite an active man, president of Intan Life Zone, an NGO working in the field of HIV and harm reduction servicing, the most at-risk population he's working with. On his specialization, I just summarize his credential is very long, so I just give some important information. Clinical psychiatry, motivational interviewing, these are his specialization. CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. So, if you have any questions related to this, you can always prompt in our in our comments. Addiction counseling and treatment. He has been working in this for 19 years. I have some questions to ask on this topic, addiction. Managing against treatment clinics. He teaches, trains, and talks on various topics pertaining to psychiatry and psychological medicine. That is why I invited uh, Dr. Sivakumar Tore Rajasingam. Please let me, bring him in. Hi, Doctor.
Hi, Jay.
Hi,
Nice to
hi,
be.
Doctor.
Yeah,
Nice to
thanks
have
for
you. It's an honor to have you.
my
We're going
honor.
to explore a very important topic. I mean, a lot of people don't want to talk about this mind health. When we say mental health, the people say, why you call mental? We are not mental. We are all normal people. So we call it mind. So let's learn. It's going to be an educational session. So, Doctor, your experience, kindly share with us. If
Sure.
there might be some questions from the viewers. So later on, I will take those questions and
My pleasure.
will
No
prompt
problem.
you.
No problem.
Give me a few 2 minutes. I will welcome our another guest.
Sure.
Okay, our second guest is a philanthropist. Uh, he is quite an active. He's a politician, MCA, Government Affairs Coordination Bureau head, uh, former chairman of the board of visitors ALP for the state of Johor. He works with Hospital Sultana Amina. Currently, he is leading Johor COVID-19 Pandemic Task Force. A very kind-hearted gentleman. His education is studied finance and economics at the University of Bridgeport, England. Very brave and vocal gentleman. Lately, you can see him in papers. Every time his article appears, he will say something for the benefit of people. It's an honor to have, Mr. Michael Tay Chi Boon. He is here with us tonight. Let me bring him in.
Glad to be in this program. Glad to be in.
Hi, Michael.
Yeah.
So you're a philanthropist. I said you're okay with that, huh?
Yeah. Sure. No
You are,
problem.
you are, you are. You're doing a great job. As we were chatting short while ago, I know You've been helping a lot of people, saving a lot of lives. Very high risk activities you are doing. I know about it. So you're going to share later. So we'll come to Dr. Sivakumar. You want to just introduce yourself? I just given very formal introduction. You want to say something so that we can take off with our, questions. Just introduce yourself, sir.
Yeah, thanks, Jay. I mean, I'll keep it very simple. You can always call me Siva. I think what's good here is, it's good. It's true what Jay said. We don't talk about mental health, but I think in the past year or so, things have really escalated, and we can not talk about mental health now. So we really need to. We really need to. So. And that's where my field is. I work in that field. I've been working in psychiatry, in mental health, counseling, anything to do with psychology. As I was telling Jay that one of my interests and a field that I've been working in is the field of addiction, drug and alcohol, and doing a lot of counseling, because we believe that medicine is not everything. Medicine can help you about 30%, 20%. The rest is, of course, you changing the way you live your life. And that's the counseling part of it. Or we like to call it psychological, psychosocial part of it.
Yeah.
Yes, Jay.
Yeah. Doctor, okay, yeah. Michael, you want to say something?
I think from my personal observation, this pandemic has brought forth a very new phenomenon, which is that mental health is nothing to be embarrassed about. Okay, we see mental health going on is a critical situation, and later, if you want me to describe to you what I mean, I can describe to you what I mean. But especially you look at the Olympics now that is going on in Tokyo. Okay, the constant issue here is that even athletes are having mental health problem. Okay, like we have tennis star Osaka, we have gymnasts also having the same problem. So I'm very surprised is that these media now brought forth this issue of mental health as if it is as common as the flu. I think from this period onwards, there is nothing embarrassing about mental health. And I think Dr. Siva would know. When we talk about mental health, there are so many issues involved. Are we talking about a schizophrenic person? Or are we talking about a depressed person? Or are we talking about a person who cannot sleep at night because of overthinking? So there are many, many forms of, what do you call it, ingredient to this issue of mental health. It doesn't have to be serious. It can be just overcome by counseling. It hasn't come to that stage of you needing schizophrenic medication or sedation or anything like that. Because Dr. Siva can tell you, every patient that walks through his office has different problems. Nobody shares the same problem at all. And it is up to Dr. Siva to decide what sort of medication is necessary or not necessary. But I would like to tell you this thing. My perception is that with this pandemic going on, mental health is no longer an embarrassing topic at all, because anybody can have this mental health. Last time, I understand, I was reading some books, they say only 10% of it having mental health. But because of the pandemic and the circumstances that we're living in, we are isolated in our rooms, we are isolated in our house, we have lost our jobs. There are so many different forms of psychological problem now. You cannot stigmatize or generalize all mental health problems to be the same. They're all different. But especially you hear on CNN or this international news, mental health is becoming a very, very normal issue, But I want to tell you that there is nothing embarrassing about it. I think from my observation, I think that most people have some form of mild mental issues. It's just that they do not know about it. Okay. And that mild mental issue could slowly develop or evolve into a very serious illness if you do not go and see a doctor. It accumulates and it comes naturally. So to me, we can just abandon or leave this mental health issue. There's nothing embarrassing to say I have mental health. For example, I was talking to a business lady. She owns a very successful spa in the massage spa in this area. So one day I call her up, and she said she wants to see a doctor. Then I asked her, what kind of doctor do you want to see? He says, my brain got problem. She told me openly. See, my brain got problem. I want to see a psychiatrist. See, it has become such a norm and a casual thing when you talk to friends like that. There's nothing to hide about psychological problems. It's quite common actually. And I think people losing their job,
Yeah,
they have
Michael and Jay, when Michael brought that up, it flashed back to me. There is a saying by a very famous psychoanalyst, and he said, show me a sane man, and I'll treat him for you. Show me a sane man, and I'll treat him for you. So what he meant was, there is
Almost everyone is insane.
Yeah, everyone has got a little bit of peculiar.
Insaneness, huh?
It's just how well you keep it covered, how well you solve. If your problem-solving techniques are good, then it's good. And I think Michael touched on a very pertinent thing. Why are we facing this problem excessively now? It's because COVID has actually stolen something that's very close to us, Malaysian population, that is contact.
Yeah.
Human contact. We've always been people who live in a community. I can't say the same for the Westerners. I can't say the same. But in the Asian context, we are very much in contact with each other, seeing, touching. And when things change, we all felt it. I felt quite odd sometimes not being able to shake hands, not being able to hug someone, and just to put a hand. But thank God, part of our culture is also this and also this, so we could still deal with it. But that stole away some of the things we have. And what broke down in humans actually, Jay, was the way we coped with problems, coping mechanism. Like aunties and uncles would go to the kopitiam, sit down there with friends and have a cup of coffee and talk. That was their coping mechanisms. Kids would go off to the park, play football, badminton. That was their coping mechanisms.
True.
Sometimes we go to karaoke, sing, that is coping mechanism. And that's the Asian context. Now, when you take everything away from us, how to cope?
Yeah.
Many of them turn to very bad methods of coping, and that's where problems start. So Michael
we're going to go into the bad methods of coping in a while. Okay?
All right.
We started off that very well. Bad method of coping. And thanks to Michael for bringing this up. Yeah, I think it is also, again, when we touch on this, different communities sees this differently. Chinese, we are multiracial community, being Chinese, Indians. The coping mechanisms are different. For Indians, they go to temples. Like what you said short while ago, we meet friends and talk in the kopitiam and all that, mama shops. We spend time meeting friends. So, but now this distance, social distancing is killing every one of us. At times, I feel so empty. Like I myself, everyone. I think, like what you said, there's no one is sane here. Everyone is insane. Okay, so let me start off with I can ask this one, doctor. You're working with this NGO, Intan Life Zone. Very interesting. I want to know, because what are the humanity work that you do under the Intan Life? It's an NGO, and you're helping the leadership at this moment. Maybe you can share a bit more on this Intan Life Zone.
Sure. We've been around for more than 15, almost going on to 20 years, I would say. Well, it was initially set up as a soup kitchen, just like Kechara.
Oh.
Feeding people, the poor people on the street, and it was actually set up by a pastor. It was very much set up by a pastor and a good friend of his who was an artist. And both of them basically with no knowledge of psychology or psychiatry set this up, And what they actually found out was a huge proportion of people on the streets had issues pertaining to addiction. All drugs, alcohol, amphetamines, opiates, heroin, And HIV was a big problem. And that's where we gradually moved into a field called harm reduction. Harm reduction is a huge field in Malaysia. What it simply says is, we can't force people to stop, because previously, the government policies were, I call you into my center and I want you to stop the habit. But harm reduction doesn't say that. Harm reduction basically says that we'll give you time to stop because changing a behavior takes time. But as long as you take your time to stop, we'll keep you safe. So that's how programs started, and we started seeing people from the most at-risk communities. So I'm talking about the drug-using communities, basically people who inject drugs, people from the communities from the transgender, people from the MSM community, men having sex with men, or the homosexual community, the commercial sex workers. So many of the boys, we call them outreach workers, go into these settings, talk to them, advise them on health, sexual health, give them condoms. For the drug users, there is a program called the Needle and Syringe Exchange Program. So that program goes on. We also advise them on health, help bringing them to the clinics, getting them treatment, if those who are diagnosed, helping them start on treatment, following them up. So there's reaching out into those communities which were always missing or lost all this while.
So especially during this time, pandemic, how your activities are going on?
Well, it has, and it can't stop. It can't stop. These are things that definitely needs to go on. So a lot of things contact has been online now, and the outreach workers have basically going out, just reaching out, point to point basis. But we've got to keep to certain regulations, MOH regulations, the mask, and making sure that sanitization takes on. Services can't stop because especially some of this, and I think Michael will talk to you more on this. These are people who are already at risk, people who may have lost jobs, people who are basically suffering, people who are going through a lot, pressurized during these times.
Yeah. Okay, the harm reduction, something interesting. Like, is it drug addicts? You can punish them by punishing. You can't really, help this person to come out of that. The behavior, the addiction. So this is a kind of like a treatment for them. Gradually withdraw them from that whatever bad behavior they have. Right, the harm reduction thing.
True.
Okay, Michael, what about you? Michael, you are doing a lot of work with the task force now lately. COVID-19 pandemic, how is it going? Maybe you want to share what kind of help you are seeking from people out there. What have you been doing? And please tell us, enlighten us a bit on this COVID-19 pandemic task force.
I think that my task force is going well. And during this time, I do talk to the DG about this matter. I'm in constant contact with the DG, and I do give him my opinion about things like, for example, I said the private sector can absorb some of these capacity to deal with people. And it was also my idea. I told DG that we can have inoculations or vaccinations in private clinic, in which he gracefully accepted the idea. And I did mention to him to expand more halls to accommodate people who got COVID-19. And he says that, especially in Selangor, we have a lot of illegal migrants or immigrants working in all these factories over there. Uh, Even though the media doesn't say it, but the bulk of the infection, from what I know, because I was talking to a medical doctor friend, a cardiologist who stays in Selangor, he says that majority of the infections come from them, and that they must clamp down on all these foreign workers. So that part, I leave it to the government to do whatever job they want to do. But as the pandemic task force chairman, okay, I do collaborate with our state government as well. And I do talk about these matters to doctors regarding these pandemic issues. And basically, we are there to give suggestion as to what they should or ought to do in order to minimize this COVID situation. But as you know, uh, the issue of containment and the issue of sustaining down the COVID is not easy. Okay, it's come to about 18,000 per day. So this is an area that I leave it to the big boys to do it. Okay, they are the ones who are actually dealing with all these testing and everything. So we have to get down this COVID rating down because we have a lot of people panicking over this COVID-19. Okay, so far we have about 9,000 people who died from COVID-19. They're all in body bags. Okay, my job is to try to mitigate and try to minimize as much as I can. Okay, through my own analysis, and I talk to the DG all the time about this issue. But apparently, this is becoming. I think the experts ought to come into this area because uh, I don't mean to downplay anything, but most of them who are appointed to run this task force, we talk about our Prime Minister, we talk about DG, Dr. Dato Noh Hisham, we talk about Khairi, we talk about Sabri Ismail. The question is, uh, they must be medically knowledgeable enough to really understand where the source of this pandemic is coming from. Okay, our job now is to reduce it. I was just telling them, think of it with the full lockdown. Okay, we still have 18,000. What if the MCU is lifted? Are we ready for that? It could be 30,000, it could be 40,000. It's nothing surprising to me. You know,
Yeah.
so our most imperative, urgent task now is to get the expert to talk to them about these issues. Okay, but of course they must listen to what you're saying. There's no point for you to say and then they just ignore what you say. I think that is a terrible misjudgment on their part. Okay, this is what I can say about my task force. Because as far as I'm concerned, my job when I'm the pandemic task force is to try to mitigate and to minimize the infection rates going on. But there are a lot of issues involved in this thing, just like mental stress or mental health problems going on in this issue, which I think Dr. Siva can talk more about this, about these people who get it. To me, the mental health issue is getting worse. When you talk to people, talk to friends, some of them do not want to talk about it at all. They remain
Yeah.
silent.
True.
They have lost their direction and they lost their hope. So it is up to us to give them a way, a road out of this problem. And I think that talking to somebody, counseling is very, very important in order to avoid something foolish like committing suicide. My most,
Mm.
my most, uh, my most concerned part is that I don't want to hear people saying they are committing suicide because they can't feed their family. I think these are things that we ought to address. You know, so I leave that to Dr. Siva to talk about this. You know.
Yeah, good. You have just given a lead to the next question to Dr. Siva. Now, this Dr. Siva, this talking about this, committing suicide. I think the numbers now is more than 200 over the last few months. From March to May, they say about more than 200 over people. The statistic shows have committed suicide due to COVID-19 and all that. So that's quite bad. Every day we hear people are dying. Now, how to really, sometimes we see certain individuals look everything normal, they look normal, there's no sign of they are distressed or depressed or what, but yet they take their life silently, they take their life. Actually, why this thing happen, how this one can be overcome, sir?
Yeah, I think that's a very important question, Jay. Let's not blame it on COVID altogether, but whether you know it or not, the rates of mental health problems and suicide has been always on the rise. Has been always on the rise, and that you normally see when a country actually starts progressing. So when there's country starts progressing, you find that there's always a group of people who get left behind, a group of people who are more stressed, and that's where it comes. So I agree with you, Jay. The numbers have been, although we don't have exact numbers to quote, but very clear, right from the start of last year's MCO till now, numbers have been quite alarming. And I think our annual numbers would have definitely gone up, And what's more alarming is those who are taking their life, a huge proportion of them are youngsters, are actually youngsters. So obviously, we've got people in the working group, but many of them are youngsters. So back to the main question: what can we do about it? Are we actually doing enough? I've got to salute and praise the Ministry of Health. I think they have been doing a good job, but of late, I think lots of them are overburdened because not only COVID is a problem, now they've got to look into mental health and other issues. So you find that in most hospitals, a lot of people are wearing multiple caps, different responsibilities, staff being siphoned out. So we are losing that manpower slowly. So we may not be doing as much as what we can do or what we should do. What can we do? I think first is, of course, screening, identifying who's at risk. And what we should be doing actually, we should be actually screening more people for mental health problems. Yeah, you're right, Jay, because people don't talk about suicide. Suicide's always been a taboo. Suicide's always been a taboo. And sad to say, I'm in a teaching profession and we teach young doctors. And when I ask the question to young doctors, would you talk about suicide in a patient who's depressed? Many of them say no. They are scared that it might give patients an idea, which is very wrong. So we advise doctors to talk about suicide, because most people who are depressed already have suicide on their mind. By talking, just like what Michael said, sometimes may actually solve the problem. There are many of them, almost more than 90% are contemplators. They're just contemplating, thinking, shall I not? People who have decided to take their life, very small numbers. So identifying this group of people, very important. Who should be screening? We should be screening the frontliners. We should be screening people who are marginalized. We should be screening people who have lost family members, and we're really not doing that. We should be doing that because, losing people, mourning, bereavement, those are all huge things, What else can we do? We can actually train people. You don't have enough psychiatrists to go around, that's for sure. We are way below WHO standards. But you don't need a psychiatrist to go and talk to people. A well-trained volunteer, a well-trained social worker, a well-trained counselor can do that job, sometimes even better than a psychiatrist. So the second word is outsourcing. We should be outsourcing help, reaching out and training others to get into the community to do this work for us.
I think you just now mentioned what shocked me is you said according to the World Health, we are below that numbers, compared to the rest of the countries. So we need more, personnel to go out there and do the screening and all that. I was reading articles on graduate employability. Unemployment rate of fresh graduates, social science contribute the highest. So social science and psychology is one of the the key areas. So it means more graduates who holds a degree in psychology are jobless out there. So here we have a shortage of manpower to go out there and do screening. This is the opportunity.
Let me give you a picture. We have in Malaysia about 1.27 per 100,000 psychiatrists. I'm only talking about psychiatrists. 1.27. And WHO standards is actually 10 per 100,000. We only are touching 1.27,
Oh my God.
So in short, to keep it very simple, we should be keeping doctors. We should be keeping doctors and doing things to keep doctors so that these numbers go up,
Instead of going to the professionals to seek help, I think these people resort to BOMO and all these mediums and all that to go and find solutions. Is that really happening? What is your opinion?
Yeah, that is really happening. I spent a good portion of my education, my education and my training and working experience in Kelantan. And I remember my professor then did a study, and a whopping almost 40%, 30 to 40% of them go to a traditional healer first before they come to a hospital to see a doctor. But Jay, let me tell you why. And then you tell me whether you can blame them or not. One, we at hospitals lock our patients in and give selected time for visit. Whereas in a traditional healer treats the person in the community with community members involved.
Yeah.
We slap a diagnosis, like what Michael was saying, schizophrenia, depression, it'll scare anyone. It'll scare anyone. Whereas the traditional healer gives you a diagnosis that is acceptable by the community, and simply because of those reasons, because they are friendlier than
Yeah,
us,
true.
or used to be friendlier. We have changed. We have changed. I'm not saying that we used to be how we used to be, but that's why we started learning that sometimes we've got to work hand in hand. There are benefits and there are disadvantages. In no way am I saying that yes, you should go. There are certain things that helps. Especially things where you need more motivation, morale, a friendlier person. So those are the reasons.
Mm, true. Uh, okay,
I
Michael.
think I think
Yeah. Yes, Michael.
yeah, I think the most crucial part of this dialogue, to me, okay, from my point of view, is that we have to bring awareness to people who are suffering from mental stress, that they have to reach out for help. Okay, if we try to stigmatize that when you have mental health, you're gila or there's something crazy about you, people will shy away from help. The whole
Yeah.
issue, if we normalize this issue of saying that it's okay to ask for help, okay, and let me tell you frankly, even if you were to see a counselor, that doesn't mean the counselor can solve your problem, because actually some of your best counselors are people in your own family or somebody who is very close to you as a friend. You don't need to have a counselor because they know your background, they know your suffering more than anybody else. Because when you go and see a counselor, he's got no idea what you're talking about, so you spend time talking to yourself most of the time, and at the end of the day you pay 200, you pay 300. I think people have been conveying this kind of thing to me. Actually, sometimes even your own family members can be your counselors, people who are close to you, especially when you have suicidal tendency. You tell them it's okay to feel suicidal, maybe you are on a suicidal mode, but then you have to reach out for help. And if they're afraid of being stigmatized as crazy people, they will never go for help. They will just suffer alone, bottle up by themselves, unless somebody push them a bit over the brink and say you have to see Dr. Siva. Okay, you gotta see somebody else. I know a psychiatrist or a counselor. Dr. Siva will be able to tell you whether you need counseling or you need medication. That's the only thing. So we have to get the word mental health as a normal syndrome, especially during this COVID-19 period, because mental health will be the most persistent or persisting problem to come. I don't think it will go away, because if you think about it, if this pandemic is going to stay on, it's going to be endemic. It's not going to be pandemic. It's going to be, meaning you have to learn to live with this virus. So what I'm trying to tell you is that if this goes on for another 2 years, there will be more casualties involved. But our job as a psychiatrist and whatever is to tell them it's okay to reach out for help, to reach out for counseling, for reach out for people like Dr. Siva. He would decide for you whether you need what sort of treatment. Okay, but the first stigmatization that we have to say is that mental health, I'm telling you, is going to be a big issue during this pandemic time, because the problems will be endless. And Dr. Siva knows that there are so many types of mental stresses going on. Okay, being isolated in your room or your house the whole day long, going out only to buy grocery, it does bring about some unhealthy environment as well. So you're going to have some stress, involving that. And if you lose your job, you can't pay the house, you can't pay the car. That is another form of stress as well. So there's so many different types of stress that we're talking about. Or during this COVID-19 period, somebody dies in your house, your wife goes, your children goes. You're going to have a lot of psychological problem here, and you need help. And I think most important thing, Jay, is to tell people, I think that mental health is going to be a very common thing to come. People are not saying it because they do not want to be stigmatized as crazy people. Actually, there's nothing wrong with it. Okay, either you have physical health problems or you have mental health problems. So I think the first stigmatization you got to go through is that it is normal. You're not crazy if you go and see a psychiatrist. Okay, he will give you medication that might be suitable for you or not suitable, or maybe he decide what you need is just counseling to move on in life. What I'm most worried about during this pandemic time, okay, is that people do not make the decision to seek help. That's all. We have
Right.
befrienders, for example. We have befrienders. People call them up. They do not understand your problem, but I know that their method is to make you talk all the time. So you're talking to yourself. But sometimes the best counselors in the world are the people who are close to you, because they know what your background is, they know what your reputation is, they know what job you have, so on and so forth. They understand about you. You see, and there's nothing wrong to tell people, I'm a suicidal mode, I want to jump down from a building. Maybe somebody can help them. You see, this is my personal opinion about this mental health issue. There's so many spectrum on this issue about mental health. So I think mental health should be made to be something like a very normal happening during this pandemic time.
There
Jay
must
and
be more education.
yeah,
I
if I
just,
can, if I can just add on to that,
yeah.
Jay, if it's okay. Yeah, I think Michael brought in a conundrum, which is, the big word here is stigma. I think
Yes.
stigma is this huge word, and that's something that keeps our people from going out and seeing someone. But to be very honest, what Michael says is true. Now, you don't need a psychiatrist. I keep saying again, you don't need a psychiatrist to actually solve these problems. It's very difficult for people to come from a kampong, take a bus, drive, come to a huge hospital, wait in a line to see a psychiatrist. Go to your closest. So if there are people who are listening, go to your closest medical provider. And most of the time, the frontliners are the GPs. The frontliners are the general practitioners.
Yeah.
And in JB, we've got a wonderful group of frontliner general practitioners who are trained in psychiatry, who really know what to do. They know how to detect when they should refer to a psychiatrist and when they could just manage it by themselves. And what Michael says is true. I mean, sometimes all people need is to talk. And that's where the befrienders come in. Now, the befrienders have been a great addition to the mental health community, as in they broke down the stigma. Even to lift up the phone and talk to someone, brings in a
Takes a
lot of
lot of courage. Yeah.
courage.
Yeah.
The question is, will this person recognize me? Will they
Yeah.
identify my voice? And the befrienders have come in and they've broken those things. Added in this additional courage to people so that they lift up. And sometimes, the thought is, I'm just listening. I'm just talking to a silent listener from the other side. Now how important or how effective can that be? But mind you, it's extremely effective. Helping people talk it out, helping people voice out their frustration, their thoughts. Helps people a lot. Helps people a lot, and that's one of the principles of counseling, to listen.
Yeah.
So you
Sometimes
basically
just by ranting, they feel good. No, after they release all their frustrations and anger.
right.
Because I was with befrienders for about almost a year, so I know what how they deal, how we are trained to deal the callers and all that, and that's a noble thing they're doing and all that. I just ask Michael, there's lately there is a trend of a lot of young people going into gambling. These online gambling, they're buying Bitcoin, whatnot, and they're losing their money, sometimes their parents' life savings. I think, how serious is this issue? I just bring to your attention, see if you can recall this incident. I picked up from your Facebook. Maybe you can share with us actually what was going on here in this discussion,
You
Michael.
you see, okay, thank you. You see, whenever they come to see me, uh, the first thing they tell me is that they owe a lot of money to the loan sharks. Okay, and so what happened is that when they tell me that they are haunted by 27 loan sharks, 29 loan sharks,
Oh,
frankly speaking, they are very suicidal. Okay, they are very suicidal, and have saved a lot of life. Meaning that I intervened and I told them that it was very courageous of you to come and look for me, because you have to shed your ego, you got to shed your pride to come to see me. So I thank them for it. So when they come to see me, okay, uh, they were having suicidal thoughts, because can you imagine if you borrow from loan sharks, okay, every 5 minutes, your phone will be ringing every 5 minutes. This is the psychological warfare being executed by the loan sharks. That is
Yeah.
the way they do it. Your phone will burst into calls every second until you go bonkers, right? So I intervened and I said to them, my job is to reduce your payment. That's okay. Because if you don't pay them a single cent, they will come after you, whether you like it or not. Okay. But very unfortunately, I want to say something very contradictory here. See, gambling is a very bad culture among the Chinese. I don't know why. Okay. They seem to want the easy way out to make money. They don't want to do it the decent way. They don't want to do it the proper and normal way. So they go into gambling. They win $400,000 per over a few months, and then they lose everything, including their shirt. Okay, then what happens? There's a breakdown in the family. Women do not like gamblers. When the husbands are gambling, 99% you're sure the marriage is going to be broken down, and there will be a lot of divorce rate going on. There is a very common thing. When I mix with the Chinese people, I know about all these problems. But let me tell you something, gambling destroys lives. Okay, even online gambling. I have told you that some of these are conspiracies done by all these gamblers to actually deceive and to swindle your money. Because all these gadgets, like gambling or machines, they can be rigged. They can be rigged for you to lose. They will let you win. Okay, they'll let you win 700,000, and then you think that is an easy way out. So every time you keep pumping in money, hoping to make 700,000, it is not that easy. At the end of the day, you are the one being cheated, not them. So when you're cheated, what happened? Okay, you might you might jump down from the building or something like that because you're being disowned by your family, you're being disowned by your children, you're being disowned by your wife. Okay, and online gambling is a massive problem. It's a very massive problem. You see, they have chosen this way as their rice bowl. Okay, they think that, and I tell you that this is not the way to to have a decent living. Okay, and some of them tell me they gamble until they have only $10 left in their pocket. They couldn't even buy food for themselves. I mean, how deploring is this thing going on? Okay, so online gambling, although it seems very easy, but there are a lot of vicious people out there. Chinese people tackling on Chinese people to gamble. But at the end of the day, who suffers? The gambler. You could have a broken family, you could have a children leaving you or wife leaving you. That will multiply your problems even more. At the end of the day, who is going to help you? Even if you see a counselor, there's nothing they can do for you. But I'm telling you, online gambling and all these gambling activities is something that you have to think very seriously about. Okay,
Michael,
children get
if I may interrupt you, this online gambling you're saying, it's quite prevalent among a Chinese community. What category of people really indulge in this kind of activities? Are they the low socio-economic status, or they
okay,
are high
okay,
economic status?
okay. I give you a simple example. Okay, I have a friend whereby the father left him $2 million after the father passed away. So he
Wow.
had $2 million. So this young man decided to be fancy. He went and he rented a hotel. He bought a nice sports car. He's got a beautiful girlfriend with him, everything like that. And then the conspirators know, they can smell blood. They know that he invested $2 million in the hotel. So they come up with a setup, ask a beautiful lady to entice him into gambling. Okay. And he won all the time. He won so much time that he's got no more heart to do the hotel business anymore. Meaning that he wants an easy way out because he can make $700,000 by just gambling. So he was actually in a bubble trap. He was in a trap until he called me and said the loan sharks are asking for $2 million now. Okay, there was a roundtable coffee shop talk, and I was one of them. He owes the loan shark $2 million. Then what happens? The loan shark says, since you cannot pay the money that you owe us, you better transfer the hotel over to us. Now, these are things that are happening. This is a gimmick. This is an entrapment. These are the things they do it. That's why I'm so against all this online gambling. But at the end of the day, you will lose your shirt at the back. And I'm telling you that people go up to Genting Highland Casino to gamble. They make $1 million. at the end of the day, they even lose their shirt. This is what I have observed, and this is what I have experienced. Them telling me. But let me tell you something. By helping people who borrow from loan sharks, actually I'm saving their life, because people can commit suicide, okay, by jumping down. But when you have phone calls every 5 minutes and you're next to your wife would know there's something wrong with you. But every
Yeah.
5 minutes somebody will be calling you. So at the end of the day, your wife can perceive you are not doing something correct. You are doing something very wrong. And women, especially Chinese women, they will really leave you if you start asking money from the wife to, what is the word, to perpetuate your habit. If you're asking money from your wife to continue on, you will be in big trouble. Okay, so it's going to affect your family, it's going to affect your finances and everything. So you want to ask me about online gambling, this is what's happening. And there are boys who are actually secretly playing online gambling linked to Hong Kong or China or wherever. At the end of the day, they lose everything. And how are you gonna? Who can help you? All right.
Yeah.
Even if you see a psychiatrist, there's nothing he can do. Your problem is a money problem. It's not anything else. Okay, go
Jay
ahead.
and Michael, can I just add in something? I think
Yes.
what Michael says is true. To be very honest, you can gamble on anything. You can gamble on anything. Um, who wins the Olympic, how many goals, how many silver, anything.
Yeah. True.
You will never win. The system always wins. That's the philosophy of gambling. The system always wins. But remember, something for you to think about, actually, Michael. Um, when the gambling process takes over your life and starts bringing in turmoil, then it's no longer psychological. It's no
There is a
longer.
question: is gambling a psychological problem?
Then it becomes pathological, and that's when we call it. There's a term called pathological gambling, and it's a behavioral addiction. It's a behavioral addiction. It may have started off with the money. Money may have been the big thing, but at the end of things, it is actually more than the money. It is more than the money. It's the thrill of gambling. It's the thrill of gambling. The way, these are from studies and clinical studies that has been gone. It's somewhat similar to drugs, except that when you take drugs, you feel high. Here in behavioral addiction, you do a behavior and you feel high. So they're in there for the high. It may have started off for the money, but at the end, it's for the high. It's for the high. So that's where other behavioral addictions come in: porn, gambling, video games. And Michael is true. I mean, is right. Yeah, there are some medications that we use to stop that urge. But on the whole, it's more of a counseling, behavioral control kind of therapy. So it's a huge thing. It's a huge thing, and it's more difficult to treat people with behavioral addiction compared to people with a drug addiction. It's so difficult. So difficult because it's the behavior that needs to change.
Yeah, you did mention about this bad coping mechanism. Maybe you can elaborate on that. Does this comes under this bad coping mechanisms?
Definitely.
What you see on the screen?
Yeah,
Addiction.
I mean, hanging out. I don't know how bad that is actually, Jay. Hanging out is good, but who you're hanging out with. But obviously not during the MCO, lah.
Yeah.
Extreme hobbies are good, Jay. Extreme hobbies are good. We normally do advise people with behavioral problems.
Extreme hobbies. I see people, hanging in the cliff and taking a selfie. These are the extreme hobbies, doctor.
Too extreme.
That's too extreme. Yeah.
Let me tie down why it's actually becoming excessive now during the COVID times. And why all this is happening is because, as I started off with, we all have coping mechanisms, and our coping mechanisms actually give us a high. When you go out with friends, you sit down, you don't even need to have alcohol. Just going there, sitting with friends, talking, having a coffee, gives you that high, gives you that good feeling, because a lot of chemicals are released, And when you stop that, if you stop that, we don't know what to do. People don't know what to do because we've never been in this before, and nobody's come out and told us, this is what you can do, this is what you should not do, We're not telling people enough. So people turn to things that they know can give them the high: gambling, porn, alcohol, drugs. And that's why the rates of addiction, alcoholism has skyrocketed since COVID, skyrocketed. We've got numbers, which are tremendous. In the States, they have actually seen the largest growth of alcohol. In the UK, there has been a rise of at least 22% of alcohol sales. And we have also learned how to get alcohol through ingenious methods, So the thing, basically people are using all this to cope with their stress, cope with their feelings, wrong or negative, I would say maladaptive, that's the word, maladaptive coping mechanisms, which are wrong. It doesn't help you at all,
Well, that's quite alarming. So COVID, in a way, created opportunity for these people to run businesses. I also read somewhere, the porn business has really, skyrocketed. People subscribing to these services, online services, to get this. This is what you classify as a bad coping mechanism, I suppose.
Exactly. To overcome.
How to come out? What would be your advice? Let's say if someone already indulging in this kind of activities, what is your advice? How to withdraw from that?
Simply, Jay, we have lost routine. We have actually lost routine. Most of us, and I think Michael would be able to attest to that. When we actually could go out and come back, and go to work, we actually had a set routine, like waking up at a certain time, getting to work, meeting friends, coming back, time with family, and then going to sleep. But now, many of those people who are working online have lost track of time. They can't draw that line between work and family. Everything's gone haywire. So they've lost routine, they've lost their routine and they don't know what they're doing. So a lot of boundaries are all messed up. So if you're going to ask about what can we do about this, I think the advice is set a routine, stick to it, stick to it, set a routine and stick to it. And when you have a routine, put in a lot of positive activities. Just because you can't go out and meet your friends doesn't mean that you can't meet them at all.
Yeah, true.
Stay connected. We are doing things now. What we're doing now is staying connected. So we have learned a lot of positive things. Stay connected. Brush up on your time management. Make sure what you're doing. So take a break. I see a lot of people who are basically working like 24 hours. The bosses calling them at 8 p.m., 9 p.m., 10 p.m. I think that has to be put to a stop. All these things, whether you like it or not, are building up stress in people.
Jay, I would like to say something.
Yeah.
You see, when a person has got gambling problem or some addiction to any sort of thing, sometimes my technique is to call up the family, okay? Is to talk to the father or the mother and tell them that your son has got a problem, okay? Now, whether they want to do it or not is up to them. But it is my job to tell them that your son got a problem. You should counsel him, because only your family can counsel him, because he doesn't want family isolation. He does not want your family to disown him. So if he listens to the parents, and if the parents are even sane or agree with what I'm saying, that your son got a problem there, okay, you should counsel him, because nobody is going to counsel him. Even if he goes to a friend, the friend might not be telling him the truth, or he might not want to listen to the friend at all. So I use this family technique or this family thing to tell them whether it's an invasion of privacy or not, it is a different issue. But the fact of the matter is that somebody has got to help you, because your friend might not respect you, your friend might have some agenda over you, your friend might not even want to help you. So the only way and the only means is to tell your family, look, your son got a problem, okay? I'm going to tell you that your son got a problem. If you want to solve his problem, you solve, okay? I have people who's got all these addiction problem, and the family just doesn't care. Of course, the parents play a very crucial role. I'm sure Dr. Siva has got great parents. That's why he's a doctor today. He was part of the influence from his parents. This is the way I look at it. The parents has got mighty power over the children. That is, if they care about them. If the son doesn't care about the family, something must be wrong with him. So he's beyond salvage. But the way I do is that I say, look, you got a problem. you better solve this problem with your son because he listens to nobody else. And family has got a very powerful tool and mechanism here. He can, if you don't listen to your mother, father, they will do something to you, and that's not my problem. It's between you and your family. This is what I want to tell you. Okay.
Yeah. I think what Michael said is true, and that is the reason why we always bring in the family when we talk about treatment for addictions. But I think, Michael, maybe I'd like to hear from you also. The biggest issue with us Asians, is the stigma that we bring about. Feeling, what we use the term, loose water face.
Yes.
Yes, the families are always in denial, and that's one of the reasons. It's not that they don't love, it's not that they don't realize, they know what's happening, but they just don't. They feel ashamed to lose their reputation in the if let's say I go and tell, oh, my son's got a porn addiction, how will people talk about me? How will people look at me? What are your thoughts, Michael?
I think we are both Western educated. We got no problem with openness. But if you really talk to a Chinaman or a Chinese who's believe in pride, ego, and face, you are going to have a big problem there because it might not cut.
Generally, Michael,
not only Chinese, I think Malaysians generally are.
It's an Asian thing. It's an Asian thing.
It's across all communities.
Exactly. Yeah.
You see, you might bring your addicted person to a rehabilitation center. Okay. Now, whether the rehabilitation center on gambling or addiction of drugs or whatever you have, is totally up to them. His fate is in their hands now. Whether they successfully detach him from addiction or not depends on how effective the techniques work or it doesn't work. I am quite sure that there are success rate or there might have been failure rates. There is no question about that. So it's whether you want to be salvaged yourself or not. You have to realize, first of all, you got a problem. You got a serious problem. That's why you're going to a rehabilitation center to do that. This is what I discovered in my course of duty in doing all these things. Either you have addiction to drugs or you have addiction to gambling. These are all up to them because your parents send you to a rehabilitation center because they don't know what to do anymore. They don't have the expertise to deal with that. So they send you there. It's up to them to save you. You see? But whether it works or not is up to the rehabilitation center. This is all I want to tell you, right?
I think all the communities are the same. We have this stigma, we don't want to go and see, seek for help, especially when we have issues. When their parents always in the denial, you tell the parents, they say, "No, my son is okay, perfectly okay." I mean, there's no such thing, they cannot accept it. So it's quite normal.
Actually, I tell you something, Jay. During this Olympic season, I learned one thing from the Olympic. Okay, they say that every athlete needs a very good coach, which means that the psychological counseling can come from only one person. You don't have to ask from 10%. You only ask one person, whether it's your wife or your son, somebody you truly respect. That person can give you the positive input on your psychology. They will tell you, you're the best. You be laser focused on your job. You just do your job. You need only one person to change your life. That's all. You need one person to change your psyche. You don't need 10 people. As long as you have one good friend that you respect and tells you that, look, you're doing something right or doing something wrong. I think that I call this a one coach theory, which means that one person is enough to change your mind. Somebody who you don't have to go to 10 people. One person, one coach can change you totally so that you can compete well in the Olympics. This is all I want to tell you. Okay.
And Michael, I mean, following up from that, one of the athletes actually said, only 30% is performance and your skills. 70% is your psychological mindset.
Yes.
That's how important things are. And we are bringing it back to the COVID situation,
true.
And showing people how important the mindset is, If you have set your mind in a positive manner, you will sail through. You will overcome obstacles. But if you have not, then you're going to hit everything on the way.
Okay, so we are almost 1 hour. Very interesting topic we are discussing. You see, the time passed so fast. It's going to be it's already 1 hour across. Okay, maybe before I wrap up, Michael, you would want to say? What would be your advice, or you want to say something before I end the session?
Okay, I use my own techniques of mitigating my own mental stress. I have my Indian pastor to talk to. Religion plays a very crucial part here. Doesn't matter if you're Christian, you're Buddhist, or Japanese, they stay alive and they stay afloat because they have something to cling on and to believe in, which is their religion. It doesn't matter whether you go to an Indian temple or you go to a church or you go to a Buddhist, as long as it gives you faith, faith in sustaining your resilience, that is good enough. But at the same time, what I would like to tell you is that there is always help around the corner. I just want to tell people who are listening to this interview that help and mitigation and say being a savior is around the corner. You must know which friend to contact whenever you have problem. For example, if I have psychological problem right now, I'll call Dr. Siva because I respect him. You must get advice from people you look up to and you respect because it will be a very powerful impact. No point getting advice from a person you don't respect because at the end of the day, it comes back to zero. Okay. But if you look up to somebody and you really put him on the high pedestal, he is the person you should be talking to. These are the techniques I use to sort of mitigate my mental stress. I talk to people. I don't say because of my pride or my ego, whatever. I don't go. Everybody got problems. Everybody a human being. Doesn't matter what. Okay, this is all I want to say.
Yeah, so what you said is very true. Seek help, see the right person, talk to the right person regarding the issue. Like what you say, if anything related to the mental stress, your issues, anxiety, depression, go and seek seek help. I think that is very very aptly mentioned by Michael. Doctor would like to say something.
Thanks, Jay. I don't think I'm going to say anything
Give me
different.
some advice how to keep my mind healthy.
Well, people at home, okay, people who are at home, and um, you know, we can sit and pray and cry and do whatever you want, but correctly put by Michael, the virus is going to be
It's
here
there.
for a period of time. It's going to be around. Why? We're not going to blame people for not managing it well, but that's how viruses are and that's how infections are. So if you're looking all around the world, numbers are actually going up, new strains coming up, and that's how infections are, when you talk to epidemiologists. So you can't control it. What you can't control it, just accept it. That's not something you're going to embark on. But what you can do, people at home, as long as you're home, you're working at home, number one, I'd advise that everyone sets a routine. Sets a routine and stick to it. If you are a working person, set a routine just like work, So fix your sleep and your waking up time. And in between, fix activities. So make sure that your routine is packed with activities. Leave very little time to sit down and think. Remember, an idle mind is a devil's
Devil's
workshop.
workshop. Yeah.
All you need is just that 1 minute, you sit down and you're engulfed with negativity. Don't give that a chance. In the evening, do some amount of recreational things. You can do it at home. You can do it safely within advised the precautions, walking, simple walk, jogging, brisk walk, something. And spend time with the family. Control your food. A lot of people eat a lot during the COVID
Yes.
period, So about work, set boundaries, make sure that you're working within time. Your time management is very important. Place or choose a dedicated workspace and make sure you take breaks. Stay away from unhealthy, maladaptive coping mechanisms. Keep in contact with your friends, call. Michael said, contact your family, speak to them, have, Zoom sessions, do all those things. I think those are things that you must. And if you start seeing symptoms, if you start feeling down, uneasy, having negative thoughts, by all means, reach out to someone you trust. It does not need to be a psychiatrist. It just needs to be a trained person, a counselor, someone in the NGO who's trained. your closest GP friend. Or simple, lift up your phone, call the befrienders. If you're in JB, you have befrienders hotline, 267-0707. You have a hotline, So ring up the befrienders, and that's all. Act on it if there are symptoms. Thanks, Jay.
Very well wrapped up, and it's a great advice that you're giving to everybody. Those who are listeners, kindly take note of this. It's so easy to engulf in the negative things, because everything we are bombarded with all the negative things. One of the reasons why I'm doing this Facebook Live is also to keep myself motivated by talking to you people like these professionals who are always staying positive. Of course, like what you said, there's no sane person on earth. Everyone is insane in a way, or So taking care of our mind health is so important. Within this 1 hour time, we try to get as much information as possible. I learned a lot from Dr. Siva, and thank you very much, Michael, for your sharing. Keep doing your great job.
Okay.
That by helping out people who really need your help. Keep in touch with us. We will always will come back again for other sessions and all that. I might need you, and I want to appreciate for both of you for spending this 1 hour
Thank
precious
you.
one
Thank
time.
you.
Dr. Siva wouldn't have. Who is this guy suddenly texting me, asking me to come to this Facebook Live and talking about this and other. Thank you very much. It's a teacher. Is always a teacher. And Dr. Siva, you are a teacher, and that's one thing is always that's a special about teachers. Okay, Dr. Siva. So hope stay safe. Michael, you are especially now you're going out. You're going to meet people and all that on the street. Dr. Siva, also please stay safe, and I hope to see you all again. Let's pray for the betterment of the mankind. All right. So I'm
Okay.
going
Thank
to
you.
end this session. We'll catch up another day. And thank you. Okay, at the count of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I end it. Thank you,
Mm.
thank you,
Okay.
thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you.